Never, never, never die. 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 Never die.
Fuck you.
Before we go too deep.
Okay.
All right.
Can you do your thing?
Oh yeah. All right, we should be good now.
All right. Like I said, yeah, I'm super tired. Normally I wake up at like around 6 a.m. like pretty I don't have to set alarms or anything like that. That's like kind of my my schedule, my body clock. But like I said, I made a huge error last night and put on the damn Zack Snyder.
I'm gonna be watching that tonight.
Well, be prepared to look like this, dude. I'm like, I'm not puffy from DECA. I'm puffy from lack of sleep and Zack Snyder's 4-hour movie. So I enjoyed it though. I couldn't stop because it's in parts, but I couldn't stop watching it. And I'm always, my wife is the one that that I look over and I'm like, "Are you awake?" And she's like, "Yeah." And like 3 minutes later,
Yeah.
Like completely like zonked out. And,
that's my wife too.
Okay. And so I kept looking over. I'm like, she's still awake. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And
but if she looks comfortable, I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah. Oh no, same. Either way, but she was awake, and I was like, and I like went to put my foot on her, like to touch her, because and just make sure she was good. And she's like, "I'm watching." I was like, "Oh Jesus!" I'm like, Zach's doing something I'm not. I'm like, I'm like, I need Zach. Zach needs to make a 4-hour, bring in the romance back.
That's it.
Movie. Yeah. So how are you, man?
Oh no, I'm doing good. Woke up early. Just got a couple things around the house to do. Just, I normally like get these podcasts as early as possible, because then as soon as these are done, I literally try to post them up that same day, because I like to keep everything fresh. You know what I'm saying? Usually I do about 3 podcasts a week: Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Okay.
And so you know what I'm saying, it keeps it moving. But I've been doing pretty good today. It's raining right now, so hopefully it clears up a little bit later. I got some yard work I wanted to take care of.
And you're on the West Coast as well.
Well, I'm in Fairfield, but I'm on the outskirts of the Bay Area.
Okay.
In San Francisco, yeah.
Yep. Gotcha. And like I said, I'm here in Las Vegas. So,
yeah.
But like I said, I appreciate you having me on. Cause when you messaged me, and you were the first.
Yeah.
But several people have done it since, and I'm like, what the fuck what is this like? And I'm like, I think it should be up. And then I realized what you were talking about, because the podcast I did with Robbie actually came out yesterday.
Yep.
And in the intro, he talks about the 3-hour podcast.
Exactly.
Please don't talk to me about the 3-hour podcast.
I'm not here to talk to you about the 3-hour podcast, but it might be brought up here and there.
All right. I'll try to do everything I can do, because like you said, Robbie's a good dude. Shout out to him.
Solid.
And
Out of the blank, for those that don't know.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to it's your house, so I didn't want to.
No, it's all good. I plug everybody in anything, bro. That's what I'm about.
Sick. All righty, my friend. Well, like I said, yeah, he brought me on his show, to talk about. He reached out to me about my arm wrestling stuff, and to this date, I think I've done like 5 or 6 episodes with him, and we've never talked about arm wrestling because we end up talking about the other shit I end up talking about. This is interesting. This is also probably the first podcast I've done in a long time where I'm not like have not smoked weed beforehand. So I haven't even had a chance to. I'm still high off of Zack Snyder. I'm still high off of him. Screw you, Zach. Fuck you, Zach.
It's all your fault.
I'm sending him a damn bill. I got like narcolepsy now.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It'll be in the mail.
Good. Yeah. So let's go. So I mean, like, we're going, but
first, I went through your I was going through the Instagram stuff like that, and I saw you got a couple pictures with Steve Collect, and I actually have a few pictures with him too. I'm big into the fitness industry. I'm not like some gigantic person. I'm just a very small figure in the fitness community, and I love bodybuilding. I love training. I love working out. And like, back in 2016, I got ran over by a forklift and it destroyed my shoulder and my back.
And that's that's actually not tattoos, right? For your audience. That's
that's not tattoos.
That's just the way your body healed. That's really cool, dude. I have really ugly scars here. I don't have anything cool like that.
And so I thought that was pretty cool that, that you're real into all those people, and you see that stuff. And then plus with the arm wrestling, and the arm wrestling training. And let me ask you something right now. What was the transition into what you were doing before into arm wrestling? Because you know, arm wrestling is a very, very, you know, dedicated sport to only that. And so it definitely takes something to get somebody into that. And that's what I want to know.
Well, I've told this story a couple. I've told this story to not really on any kind of media or anything like that. I've told it to people I know a few times. So for me, I'm from Pittsburgh, and so if you know anything, and I'm in my 40s, so I grew up in the I was born in the 70s. And so I grew up in Pittsburgh, right? A lot of people say, oh, I'm from Pittsburgh, but where you? They're like, oh yeah, where at? And they're like, Beaver. And I'm like, that's actually not Pittsburgh. But I'm actually from the city. Like I was actually born in like near downtown Pittsburgh, on the south side, before it was cool. If you ever know anything about Pittsburgh, the south side area right now is like a cool, like booming mecca. When I was and I'm not a beatnik hippie. I'm wearing my beanie because my hair looks like shit. But yeah, so I grew up in Pittsburgh, which back then, it was still, well, early Pittsburgh was known as the Steel Town. I mean, there was we got the Steelers, we had Iron City beer. The movie Flashdance was filmed like right around the street right down the street from where I lived. And and I grew up in those Rocky Balboa style row houses, pretty poor. But my grandmother actually was a steel worker for J&L steel mill. And so when I was young, and they would tell me, do chores or whatever, my grandma would always challenge, like, you say, do this, and I'm like, no, and then I'll arm wrestle you for it. And I started arm wrestling my grandmother actually when I was a little kid. And dude, I think it took until she should get sick, and I had to get like older in order for me to beat her, because she used to like spool steel. I think that's the correct terminology. But anyway, like her, she was like this little like 5'1", 105-pound Polish lady. And but she was like, had an iron hand and rip. And I think literally I was like fucking like 14 years old, and like whatever, 12 years old, whatever until I beat her. But it was one of those things. It was always like a thing. We had like, at lunchrooms, like, hey, do something, arm wrestling for it. It was like arm wrestling or play video games. And I remember, so what happened was I had I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I had a hand injury. I didn't heal up with cool tattoos like you. I actually just got a scar. And the doctor told me that I was in high school, and the doctor told me I'd never be able to make a fist. Like they said, every time I make a fist, it would be like this. I wouldn't be able to close my hand all the way.
The tendons in there.
And so I had a tendon surgery. I had like the whole summer I spent with a button on top of my finger. It was really archaic looking. And, looking back now, I mean, you're talking about like 1992, 93.
The best they had then.
Yeah, right. And but yeah, so the tendon was like, it was horrible. And but the doctor told me I would never have full strength in my hand. And and I just even at 17 years old, when I think I was 16, 17 at the time, I just that wasn't going to happen. And I got really into all things hand strength. I found out about the company Iron Mind, who makes the Captain of Crush grippers. I got one right here.
And I got the 250s and the 300.
Nice. So I ain't that powerful. So
250 I can get it, but that 300 I'm not even budging it.
Yeah, right. And but yeah, so I got into all things hand strength, and then I had a summer job. I wasn't old enough to like work. And so I was like, this was like where I was all around the same time. My memories a bit, but my friend's dad did roofing and did like industrial roofing. And so I wasn't old enough to do anything, or I didn't know how to roof. So I would carry those big 5-gallon drums, and at the end of the day, my forearms would be like, big and pumping. Yeah. And I didn't think about it. I remember at the time, I was in high school, and like people were like, one of the guys, like it was a football player named Tony something. And he was like, oh, dude, you have pretty big forearms, man. Are you good at arm wrestling? And I was like, I mean, it's funny. I thought of arm wrestling with my grandmother. And I remember him and I arm wrestled at the lunchroom, like during like, after lunch and everything like that. And I remember like, everyone's going, go, and he's like, and I remember looking, I remember it's like a movie, maybe, there's a great line in the movie, Her, like our past is just the stories we tell ourselves, and I love that line. So I'm always like, do I remember this for how it was, or this how it was? This is how what it was, or this is how I remember it? If you understand what I'm
Yeah, I know
saying.
exactly what you're talking about.
And so I just remember it was like in slow motion, and this big, like middle linebacker on our football team in high school was, and I'm like 135, 140 pounds. Just like, I'm like, is he really trying? I don't, because like it didn't feel like he was really trying. And I around that time too, there was a Sports Illustrated article that came out, and it was called Arms in the Man. It was by this dude. It was an article about this dude, world champion, named Dave Patton. And this is all before the internet. It's 1993. And
Yeah,
so
everything's magazines or
exactly.
yeah,
And
that's it.
so and there was no like how to arm wrestle, or you got YouTube, and you can watch now 400 videos on how to do anything,
Yeah.
like, so I can learn how to like do natural childbirth to my wife if she wanted to, right. And so yeah, man. And I end up reaching out to this guy Dave. My mom actually looked up his mother, and he too, oddly, and I think the dude like still lived with his mom, and he got on the phone with me, and he was like, oh, you like arm wrestling, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And he gave me his workout. Now, I didn't know what that was at the time, but it would have been like the equivalent of getting like, Ronnie Coleman's steroid cycle, you know what I mean? Or something like that, where you got this top secret information, and I just took it for granted. And then that was 94. I moved to Orlando. I started working down there, working for Universal Studios as a stunt actor and all this kind of shit like that. But then I decided to 9/11 happened, right? 2001, 9/11 happened. And I decided to internet's out by that time, and I decided to take a break from Halo. I was playing Halo on Xbox all the time.
Big Halo player.
All right, so we got the chief right here.
You know what I mean?
Motivates me. And but yeah, so I took the time off, and I drove from Orlando to Jacksonville during 9/11 because the show I was doing in Orlando, everything was like shut down.
Yeah.
So I drove to Orlando, or from Orlando to Jacksonville, met up with a guy named Greg Helm, who ran the Jacksonville arm wrestling team.
Okay.
Entered my first tournament, lost because I didn't know the rules. The next tournament I entered, I was like the multiple time 100 or 70 kilo, 154 pound state champ for Florida.
Nice.
And then I that was like 3 years in a row, 2.5, 3 years. And then I took 17 years off.
Yeah.
And I got back into it 2 years ago. So,
nice.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. With all the arm wrestling experience you have, how accurate is the depiction of over the top?
Over the top is the worst thing that happened to arm wrestling, because a lot of people look at it as, I'm a huge Stallone fan. I fucking love the movie, but it's the worst thing to me, in my opinion, only because when you have something that's not mainstream, right? And this is all my opinion. So, but when you have something that's not mainstream and then show it to the public's, especially in a profile like that, like a Sylvester Stallone movie, that's going to be Bible to them. You know what I mean? And, and so it's going to be Bible to them. And the thing I would, you arm wrestle. Yeah. Oh, so this is always good. So you have to turn your hat around to get strong. I'm like, yes, I do. I can't do anything. I can't even take a shit without my hat. Like if I'm gonna have sex with my wife, I got to put a hat on and turn it around, or else I'm
it's like a switch.
Yeah, it's a switch. It goes, switch. It goes up. And then people, hey, do you drink motor oil? I'm like, I prefer orange juice, but yes, I do drink motor. But it's that kind of like stigma, you know what I mean, that that's involved with it. So it's great for the exposure of it. And I, a lot of people don't know that that was shot during a real arm wrestling tournament. To this day, the biggest arm wrestling tournament ever was the Over the Top tournament. Whoa. And they really did give away that truck that they showed, that Volvo tractor. That was the real prize for the
trivia division. Right there. I definitely didn't know that.
Yeah. And there's a guy in the movie, his name's John Brzenk. He's actually the guy that won that won that tournament. Yep.
Nice. Mm-hmm. One of the actors, the actual actor that drank the motor oil and ate the cigar.
Yeah.
He was in another movie called Bigger, Faster, Stronger, and that movie was all about, and he was in there, and they were showing like the decline and stuff like that. But he was just an actor though that had a good body, And
he was in. His name's Bruce.
yeah,
was Bruce Wayne? Wilhelm
yeah, it was
Wayne?
something like that. Yeah,
Not Bruce Wayne. I'm still on Zack
No,
Snyder Batman. Damn it,
yeah.
Zack. But yeah, no. His name's Bruce. And he was actually a competitive arm wrestler.
Oh,
as well.
okay. Seeing the thing, it didn't say nothing about him being a competitive arm wrestler. They're saying
Yeah.
he was an actor, just happened to be in a movie, and I was like, oh, okay.
No, he did arm wrestle, and he still competed and stuff like that. Through Circle, I think we're friends on Facebook actually. Because like if you're an arm wrestler and you have like one or two cool arm wrestling friends, you get to become friends with all of us. You know,
it's mandatory.
It is, yeah. I mean, because and that's the thing. It's a really community family group of people, man. And I mean, I think you can say it in anything, because like dudes like with tats are cool together, dudes that power lift are cool together, meth heads are cool together, you know what I mean, or whatever. So it's like once you find that common bond, it's pretty easy to
relate.
that relating thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I saw in one of your videos you were doing some strict curling in your bathroom. Have you dedicated any time to strict curling?
No, it's
starting to come back.
It's funny. It is. Well, here's the thing, the sport, again, because everything can be a thing now because of social media, YouTube, Instagram, these things, you can be like right now. In theory, you have your own TV show, what I'm saying, or radio show, which, if you could have told someone 10 years ago, I'm going to have my own radio show, like, yeah, good luck with what budget? Well, it's like $9, you know what I mean? Like decent internet, a kind of a mic or, whatever. And you got a platform, and for the good or the bad, I think there's both, definitely. I'm sure you can agree with that. But, it's interesting. So, because of Larry Wheels, now this arm wrestling's got like a huge thing now, and, and I've got to, Larry's had, the two world US champions or North America champions, Michael Todd and, Devin Larratt, both on the show, or both on, over in Dubai training with him. And, I met Larry before. I consider myself friend. When I say friends, people use that word, but I consider myself friends with Michael and Devin. I have their phone numbers. If I have your cell number, I feel like we're friends.
No, that is that friend level. Cool. When you exchange phone numbers,
I don't have Larry Wheels. I don't have Larry Wheels' phone number, but he's done really great things for the sport as far as the exposure because of his massive following.
Yeah, his massive size, his PRs, his everything he touches right now is gold because he's just doing ridiculous things that are just unheard of. You know what I
mean? And it's not only that, he's not just a strong guy, he's a he's a cool dude, he's got a great personality, he's got that satanic laugh he's got, and he's got great charisma and stuff like that. And you can tell with this arm wrestling thing, you can tell he's kind of out of his element, and and he's learning. But for me, like it's interesting when I did that curl thing. I don't know what I curled, like 160 pounds. So I think it was. I hadn't done a curl in I don't even know how long, maybe a year. So I only recently started doing bicep curls. It's something I never really done. Arm wrestling is really a hand. I flex people, like, flex your best muscle. I'm like, that one, it's my thumb muscle in my hand. Like my hands are thick and fat, but arm wrestling really is like from your like fingers to your like wrist. That's where the biggest part of it is. So another friend of mine, a guy who's become a great friend of mine, I don't know if you know the guy, Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen is a world record holder, power lifter, and really famous in the powerlifting world. And so through meeting Brandon, and a buddy on my team, Eric Spoto was the former world bench press. He did over 725 raw bench press.
Man, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and and I got to meet these really great guys here in Vegas, but they've exposed me to all these other giant powerlifter dudes. And it's interesting, you'll have a guy that's, can deadlift 1,000 pounds, 800 pounds, no grips, nothing. And, squat this and bench, 5 something. And they get on the table with me and they look at me like I'm like Kal-El from Krypton. Damn it, another Zack fucking Snyder reference. And, but they look at me like I'm from Krypton. And, because, I'm like 5'7.5", 180 pounds. And, but it's a different kind of strength, man. It's different.
It's all different. You got a lot of technique that goes into
Here's the thing. And I don't want to try to sound like a cockbag and correct you in your own show, but here's the thing. That's the excuse for everyone who's big and strong.
Yeah.
And because people, I beat somebody and they go, oh, well, it must be a lot of technique.
Yeah.
And here's what they don't want to hear. It's not. I'm that much stronger than everybody else. And that's not, and people are like, fuck this guy.
Goes.
But I'm that much stronger than everybody in that thing.
Yeah.
Dude, maybe I can bench press 2 plates, maybe like for 1 rep on the best thing with smelling salts.
Yeah.
Like, so I ain't breaking no bench press records. My wife squats more than I do, but in this thing, I'm really, 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 really strong. And the only time technique comes into play is when you're going against an other equally strong arm wrestler.
Okay.
But like, when I'm because I'll show these guys, I'm like, I say, well, why don't you do this? Get in a position where you're just using your bicep.
Yeah.
And these guys with, these giant, huge arms, and I'm going to use just my bicep, and they can feel because what it is the way one of the best ways I try to tell people is, imagine you got your chest, your shoulder, your bicep, and your forearm, right? And most of the power you can put down, like you're a big, I can see, you're a muscle guy.
Oh yeah, I'm 300 pounds.
There you go, and you got the tank top to prove it. You're actually wearing a sweater. That's how big you are. You're wearing a long sleeve sweater.
You know what I'm saying? Every time I put them on, they just fall off. I can't.
I get it. No, I get it, man. I buy kid things from Build-A-Bear and Baby Gap to I try to look as big as possible. But what I try to explain people, and you maybe get this reference. If you got your chest, your shoulders, everything depends on just like in mechanics. You imagine this right here, joint in your elbow is a hinge, right? That's your hinge. And when you like a regular human being, like let's say even a guy who works out, like a regular bodybuilder, their hinge is made of like plastic, right? So say you at 300 pounds, your total output is like 150 pounds of fucking force.
Yeah.
This way, you know what I mean? Into your arm, into your hand, right? Yeah. Now, because of the weakness in your hinge, you're only able to apply about 60 pounds of that pressure, of that 150. Yeah. I may be on paper, and that's why you're like, oh, well, but I can lift so much more than you. You're right, you can. But you may, I guess you have 150, but can apply 60. I maybe have 90, but I can apply 90. Yeah. So therefore my 90 is higher than your 60. Yeah. And that's the best way I can describe it, is because as your hinge gets stronger, it's like, instead of being plastic, now it's made of wood. Yeah. Now it's made of stone. Now it's made of steel. Now it's made of diamond, and I'm
like
still working.
Grandma could always just nail you.
Exactly. Because she's 105 pounds, and, at 105 pounds and, 5'1", it's clearly not a muscular thing, even for a 14-year-old guy, boy, you know what I mean? Like, and I was always athletic and stuff, but, but that's the thing, and that's what, just like anything, when people say to me, aren't you afraid to get hurt? I'm like, dude, you can get hurt doing, that's exactly. Like doing deadlifts.
Hold my back out, putting on my shoes.
Dude, well, that too, you know what I mean? But I'm saying, when people say, I saw I'm like, I can take you there. Oh, dude, no, man, no. And these are, bodybuilder guys. I'm like, oh, dude, I saw guys blow out their arms, break their arms. I'm like, I've seen people's on a leg press machine, their knees collapse backwards.
Exactly.
I just saw you, and they're like, okay, yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
So,
big time.
It's all, you know what I mean? It's all relative to what you do.
No, 100% is. I want to get a little into the stuntman work that you speak of, because Robbie always mentions that you was a Power Ranger.
Hey, fuck it, man.
And so that's what I want to talk. I want to hear a little, like, stuntman work, the stuff that you've done out there, because that takes some fucking serious balls just to throw yourself out there to be injured in any kind of stuntman work.
Well, it's funny. It doesn't take balls. It takes being young. I mean, like what like I look back at some of the stuff I did now, and I'm like, like you said, I love the Louis C.K., the comedian. He says the hardest part of his day is tying his shoes, because it feels like or putting his socks on. He says it feels like you're folding a bowling ball in half. And I feel like that a lot of times, I'm like, no, I like I said earlier, I started, excuse me, I started as a martial artist. My dad actually was trained in Indonesia in an interesting martial art, very, very obscure, called Silat.
I
and
know.
it's
I know. So, yeah.
okay, but so you probably only know because you know these things.
Yeah.
Most people don't know what silat is, but it's a martial art from Indonesia. My dad actually and his teacher actually brought silat to America. It was
Okay.
not in America until and his teacher was a guy named Willie Wetzel. Anyway, 2 weeks before my dad had a black belt in his own school and everything like that. 2 weeks before I was born, my dad was in a car accident and hurt his back. End up, have to get out of martial arts, sell his school, so I grew up always seeing my dad injured. And so I wasn't allowed to play football. I wasn't allowed to do this because my dad had this thing of, being injured. Yeah, exactly. And so, but he started teaching me as a little kid, kind of like Mr. Miyagi style though. For instance, like when I was a young boy, like I'm talking like little, like 4 or 5 years old, he always had me stretching, or he had me like when I tied my shoe, I just tied my shoe standing up on one leg.
Yeah.
Like, so I would stand like a what do they call flamingo? You know what I mean? So I would be on one leg tying my shoe, and then I had to put that foot down, stand on the other leg and tie my shoe. Little things like that, I was like, I don't want to show it to you, but so, like most people's feet, like your fist is your toes, your toes go this way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, ever since I was a little kid, I always sat, instead of like, I would put my feet like this. So my feet would curl under on the top of my knuckles.
Yeah.
And it made my feet super flexible. So when later on in life, when I got into jujitsu, people couldn't foot lock me because my feet, like I can take people think it's strange. Like I can jump up and down on my feet, like backwards.
Yeah. Like a ballet dancer almost.
Yeah. But I can tuck my foot all the way down. So on the bones. And it's funny because my wife's a ballerina. When I met her, she was like, what the fuck? Like, she's like, we stretch our feet for years to try to be able to do that. I'm like, well, I did stretch my feet for years, but, yeah. And it was one of those things I always kind of stayed with it. Until 1993, UFC 1 came out. And I watched as a big Bruce Lee fan. I grew up in the Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, me too.
Seagal.
Me too.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? And
split kicks all day.
Exactly, and quoting all the the bottom one, boards don't hit back, and all the shitty, Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, I just bought Out for Justice, and I was getting to watch it later today.
What's the guy's name? No,
but
Gino. Gino, yeah, and get the pull at the pulse. He's beating people with the cue ball, ball and shit. And the fucking like I said, I watched all those movies way too much.
Way too much.
And but yeah, so but when UFC, I knew about the Gracies because back then there was Black Belt magazine. I don't even.
I got the first one I had was the Chuck Norris Black Belt magazine.
I probably had that same one with Chuck on the cover, and but so I knew in Black Belt magazine they had there was always offers for the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu DVDs, and they used to do this thing called In Action, which was literally the Gracies would go up back to people, like walk up to people, smack them in the face, fight and videotape it, and they were the kings of reality way back then. And then they would sell this video. I don't know if you know anything about that. They would sell this I never heard of those. They would sell this on VHS. Now, I remember, I drank the Kool-Aid and I bought one of them because they were saying real street fights, unedited, blah, blah, blah. We're going to teach you how to really street fight. And I'm like, that's like the thing, if you buy in the back of a magazine, the muscle guy, and you go on this program. And the girls are all going to come to find you and all that stuff. But I ordered the fucking, and my eyes were opened because I thought all the stuff I knew with jumps, kicks, and this and that, I thought that's what I would, and I'd been in fights and stuff like that, but it just opened my eyes. And then so UFC 1 comes around, and I remember I saw that guy Gracie, and I said, I think, Dad, this guy's gonna win because I've seen them fight, and it's really weird. They just grab a hold of people and take them down, and no one can kind of do anything about it. And and there was a kung fu guy and the Salat guy and the sumo guy, and Ken Shamrock was in it. And he was all looked like a big Ken doll, a He-Man doll, and Gracie beat them all. And so I was like, I have to learn that. And when I moved down to Orlando in '94, me and my buddy Matt, we would save up money and I would drive. I worked the Jaws attraction, right? And in Universal Studios in Orlando. And I would drive like once a month. We would pay money or save up our money and drive down to Miami and take a jujitsu lesson with the Valenti brothers.
Yeah.
Now there were only 3 places you could learn jujitsu. Jujitsu is like Starbucks now.
Yeah.
But there was Torrance, California with the Gracies. Henzo Gracie was in New York, New Jersey,
Yeah.
and then the Valenti brothers were in Miami. So I started jiu-jitsu way back then, and never did I think there was going to be, you know, me stretching and doing this and that was going to lead into anything for making money, you know what I'm saying? So in 1996, 95, 96, I was working at, like I said, I was working like $6 an hour working at Universal Studios as the Jaws ride.
Yeah.
And my supervisor came up to me and he said, "Hey man, you know, they're building this Terminator thing." Now we all heard the rumor at Universal at the time was it was going to be an indoor roller coaster similar to Rock and Roller Coaster, Space Mountain. That's what we heard, but based on the Terminator. We found out that they are actually making a stunt show, and they were going to bring back the Terminator characters. And there was a photo of Eddie Furlong, the kid who played the original John Connor, and Terminator, and like in now, you know, like at that time, like in him and I are the same age, and so he had, you know, this was a skinny kid with long hair, and I was like, oh shit, well, I love the Terminator movies. I'm gonna go you know, and I went and auditioned, and you know, that long story long was the opening to me opening it changed my life. To make like take the next from 96 till 2019, my life changed because of that audition and that opening into that world. I met so many people. I got to travel the world. I got to become one, you know, a Power Ranger, a Ninja Turtle, you know, I'm taking stunt world, stunt times.
Yeah.
And all the way up to I actually was a performer with Cirque du Soleil.
Okay.
And that's the reason I got out of my that's the reason I got out of arm wrestling, because I learned how to do hand balancing at 19 years old.
Yeah.
And so when you're doing handstand, your hand's always like this. When you're arm wrestling, your ideal position is like this.
Yeah.
So from the 2 years plus I was put into arm wrestling, I was losing my range of motion.
Yeah.
And one day I was doing an act. I was working for a company called Neil Goldberg Cirque. And it was more of a convention style. We did convention shows and stuff. And I fell in my act, and I knew why I fell. And it was because I was losing range of motion. So it was like, I was like, all right, well, do I keep, you know, winning free t-shirts and plastic trophies, or do I keep working for Cirque du Soleil? You know?
Keep making his money.
I made the dumb decision to keep working with Cirque, and I gave up arm wrestling. But yeah. And so 2 years ago, I quit doing jiu-jitsu. I was doing jiu-jitsu again full time, but waking up, you know, in the morning. If you've ever rolled, or anyone who has, you know, and the older you get doing jiu-jitsu as a 40-year-old guy, you know, and all my teachers, you know, neck infusion, herniated disc, blown ACLs. And I'm paying for this. You know, I lived in Singapore, and I was living in Singapore for 10 years. That's where I met my wife. And I trained with an awesome team out there, the Evolve fight team. You know, they had Ben Askren was on the team, Rafael Dos Anjos, Shinya Aoki. If you're a MMA fan, you'll know who Shinya Aoki is. But you know, I wanted to still be competitive, and I'm like, maybe, you know, I met up with some guys in Singapore. Shout out to Valen Lowe. He is the president of the Singapore arm wrestling team. And they welcomed me and my wife in with open arms. And I got back to training, and and again, I just love it, whether you're in Singapore or in Vegas, Orlando, Milwaukee. The arm wrestling world is just such a cool group of guys and girls, man. And we're just the nicest people.
That's always good to hear, because like I said, these communities, when you get in these tight knit communities, you know, I have my hands in everything, but as a podcaster, you know, I have a super tight niche podcast community that I can rely on. And just like you said, they welcome you in, they help you, they talk to you, they point things out to you. They give you the kind of constructive criticism that will fix what the problem is or what is happening. And when you can get that kind of information back and be able to bounce ideas and bounce these thoughts, and like, I was thinking of this, and then they throw that info back, it holds its weight in gold. And that's a lot of times people don't have the ability to like accept that, you know what I'm saying? Because some people are just so full of themselves, but those are the people that never succeed, and those are the people that really had that downfall.
Well, I can't agree with you more. I was going to say it's interesting because not only I was going to say, you said what I was thinking, and I thought you were going to say something different. You said it's nice to have that ability to have, people give you feedback. And I was like, well, more importantly, it's your ability to be able to accept that. The Bible says wisdom loves correction.
Yep.
And I think in this day and age, everyone needs to hear that more than ever because everyone thinks they're right. I always approach every conversation going, I think I'm right.
Yeah.
But I'd rather know, or at least I want to know your perspective,
Exactly.
And I'm a Christian guy. I always talk about my faith, and I talk to my faith on the show.
Mhm.
But if someone said to me, well, I worship the devil, what do you think about that? I'm like, tell me more about it. You know what I mean?
Explain this to me.
Because at the end of the day, no one knows that they're right, man.
Yeah.
That's why it's called faith, because whether you believe that there's everything or whether there's nothing, we're still guessing, man.
Exactly. It's just a shot in the dark, no matter what we do. You know what I'm saying? And
still guessing until we don't know,
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the reasons why I always reach out. I always talk. I always, like I said, I don't know shit until it's either confirmed or someone's like, hey, why don't you look at this? You know what I'm saying? And then once I get that different perspective, it gives you the ability to fucking really dial stuff in.
And I love perspective because again, I love that thing. People say, what's the, or a truth and fact. And, people say, is there a difference? Some people say yes. Some people say no. This is my personal take on truth and fact. Truth is because I can put you in a lie detector and you will pass a truth test, but that doesn't mean that that's a fact. For instance, if I get a 400-pound barbell and put it on the floor and I say, hey man, can you pick that? Or is that heavy? You pick it up and you're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I go to pick it up and I can't even move it. I'm like, fuck, dude, that's heavy. The truth is you don't think it's heavy. Yep. And you're telling the truth. You think it's light. The truth, I think it's really fucking heavy. That's the truth. But the fact is it's 400 pounds.
Exactly.
And and if you can take that analogy and put it on whatever, that's what I think, and I think the big thing, the problem in this world is everyone thinks their truth is a fact.
Yeah.
And
that's not always the truth.
It ain't. It's probably seldom that seldomly the truth is a fact, and again, like you said, I think the mark of a wise man is to, so what Socrates says, true knowledge is knowing you know nothing. Bill and Ted are like, that's us. And I really always try to hold myself to that, whether it's a training method, someone giving me new wisdom, I love doing podcasts. I love talking because any kind of conversation, it's like energy transfer, and I really do enjoy it. I love it,
Oh yeah. Now, and that's just how this goes. You know what I'm saying? You get a good vibe, you get a good feel, and then you can go back and forth and have a good time. And that's what I love about doing this podcast. Because like I said, these are the things that I always talk about in my podcast is the motivation, the willingness, the hard work, the ethic that it takes to pursue your dream, chase your dream, and fully accept your dream. Because a lot of times people out here, they don't know how to start, when to start. They're looking for a sign. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to point in a direction.
Hey, preach to me. I need help, man. I need help. Preach. I'm like,
I'll tell you, man, like I said, I'm about here that way. Go forward is the direction. Forward will always be the direction. A good buddy of mine's made an analogy about using a car. And what he always says is, look, in this world, you're driving in a direction. The direction is forward. With the car, you have the ability to pick people up and drop people off. And you need to understand that you're going in your direction and not everyone's going to always be with you in this car. They can go for the ride. You can pull over and let them out. And then sometimes you got to kick people out the car. But the thing is you're still moving in your direction. You don't go backwards. You always go forwards. And by going forwards, you'll be able actually complete your life. You'll find your destination. When you find that destination, that trip and that journey was worth it. And for those of the people that are with you, will actually be there to be with you and to bask in the glory of your success. And when you have that success, you can spread it amongst people, because everyone's level of success is different. My level of success is happiness, and I like to spread my happiness. Yeah,
same, 100%.
You know?
Well, and living in Las Vegas, and I know that, and I'm happy. I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I learned the lesson younger than I think most. The and you. It seems like, without just hearing what you say, I got a pretty good read of people, man. Other than arm wrestling, I think I'm a good judge of character pretty quickly. And one of the things living here in Vegas, it's a very superficial city at times. It's a wonderful city, but especially most people's perception of it is the superficiality of it all.
Exactly. It's Sin City.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I worked and when I got out of performing, so I moved out here to work for Cirque. And long story short, it ended up not working out, but they liked me and they didn't want to lose me in the company. So I started working for their nightclub.
Nice.
And it took, dude, I ended up doing that for like 4 years, completely got out of performing. And I made really, really, really good money, and thought at the time I was, that you climb in the ladders to success only to realize that the ladder's leaning up against the wrong building.
Yep.
And I learned back then, around 30, 32 years old, that success is not having the big car, the house, the this or that, because I had clients, man, that drove a Maserati.
Yeah.
But their wife hated him. Their wife's cheating on him. Their kids hate him because they never see him. He's just grinding and doing this. And you hear this thing all the time. As far as, you got to just keep going, rest when you're dead, doing all these things. And hey, maybe they're right. And maybe that's success for them. Like, maybe, like I said, that's their truth, but it ain't for me, man. What is being successful? Like you said, peace of mind, happiness, time, balance between what I love to do, have time with my wife. It's crazy. I'm happily married, in this day and age, that feels like
it's a miracle.
A miracle. And it shouldn't be, man, and, that's success for me. And, I'll tell you, man, this year has been a real eye-opening thing. I moved home a year and a half ago from Singapore, where I made great money. I loved what I did, but it was time to come home. And I came home, and, a few months after living here, the pandemic hits, and I have been struggling, man. I've been unemployed mainly for the better part of almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
I've been unemployed. I had a job for a short period of time. I was working at a customer service job. Yeah. So thankful that I finally got a job. And 4 months into it, I quit. And on every, it's funny because the people that are like-minded like me, when they knew me, and I told them that I had this job, and they're like, Jason, what are you doing, dude? Like, that's, and it's funny because if you would call me and said, Ben, or Jason, what are you doing? But Ben, here's the thing. I do that. The advice I give you was not the advice I was taking. And I felt, not that I couldn't do the job, dude, the hypocrisy of me not following my own advice was crushing my spirit, and I quit. And, I like to say I'm on a lazy river through life, man, and if you've ever been on a lazy river, sometimes the current takes you down this path.
Yep.
Sometimes the current takes you down that path. And in my life, there's been a few times where I saw that path and I fucking started swimming toward it, man. And dude, it was bad, whether a bad relationship, a bad job, this or that, I really, really wanted to go down that path. And I'm not here to try to debate people that work hard till you're dead, chase this, chase that.
No, everyone's cup of tea is different.
Hey, but it ain't mine, man. And I used to have, dude, I have a Rolex watch. I have an Audi, that's paid for and all that stuff. Not in a bragging way, but I'm like, I have that stuff and it don't mean shit.
Exactly.
I don't give a shit about it, because guess what? The older you get, you realize you're like, that Louis Vuitton bag that girl's fucking so proud of.
Yeah.
Well, that just cost you like 500 hours of your life.
Exactly.
Is it worth it? Hey, if it is, God bless you.
Trust me. That's exactly my wife has what the hell is it called? It's I think it's like eczema, where she gets a little rash
Oh,
here
eczema.
and there.
Yeah. Yep.
And we did
Psoriasis, eczema.
yeah, exactly, psoriasis. That's what she has.
Yep.
She has psoriasis. And what happens is she hates it. She doesn't like it. So I ended up buying this test from Everly Wells, where they do like a food analysis test where it tells you things that you're allergic to. Yeah. So we did it and found out there's a lot of foods and spices that you can't have that would cause the irritation. And the one of the things is like I love to eat. I love to, I cook and smoke meat all the time.
That's my life.
My wife's she's an amazing cook in the kitchen, and a lot of times she's like, well, I'm going to eat something different because I was like, it's not the fact that I want to eat this delicious food. I want to sit here and just eat with you and us eat the same, because if we can do that, like I said, that's one of those little forms of happiness where I can sit down and we're just enjoying. You know what I'm saying? I don't care.
And
what
it's simple, man.
Like. Yeah, it is simple.
It's simple, and
it's what it needs to be.
And I love hearing that, because then I feel like I'm not the only retard, that thinks, that I'm doing it, that I'm onto something, and I love that, and I said the word retard, but
that's all right, because I identify as that.
Well, me too.
A lot of crazy things.
Well, me too. And the thing is, man, it's the other thing where I was talking to my friend last night, and I was saying, just this, it makes me laugh with, people's sensitivity to words. And I'm like, or anything. And I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, I always live by, because they're like, well, so you're not offended by anything. What if I said your wife's ugly? I'm like, well, maybe she is, and at least I don't see her like that. So leave me the fuck alone.
That's what I see. Exactly.
Yeah, so,
whatever you think, that's what you think, and I can give two fucks less.
Me too. And so someone, and I'm like, dude, I cannot stop. I have zero control what anyone says or does to me, but I have 100% control on how I react to it.
Exactly.
So I can, no, I'm not offended. No, I'm not a delicate snowflake. Yeah. No, I'm not. Words hurt. I got into this argument yesterday, not an argument, a discussion with a good friend of mine saying about words hurt. I'm like, let's make a fucking deal, dude. I'm going to either tell you that I'm going to give you the worst insult ever. You can pick. This one of the things you're having. I'm going to give you a worst insult ever, or I'm going to punch you in the throat. What are you going to pick?
Exactly.
I don't know about you, but I'm just like, if you told me that thing, I'm like, dude, just let me have it. Please don't punch my fucking there.
Yeah.
And I said, and if you pick the words thing, I'm going to call you that name and punch you in the throat anyway. It's be a fucking asshole, so. But but again, I honestly think the reason I say this, because I honestly think most of that stuff comes from people not having happiness and inner peace.
Yeah, that's what it is. People have so much conflict in their life that their perception of happiness is not what the real perception of it should be. You know what I'm saying?
Just like rich.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's like, well, if I had all the money, I was like, no. Happiness is everyone's individuality. Like my happiness is, like I said, is my family. It's enjoying time. It's what I've learned to do, because I've had the jobs where I've worked 90 hours a week, did it for 9 years, working some hardcore, brutal ass job. And I was never home. I missed my oldest kids, graduations, field trips, all these different things, because I just knew at that time, all I needed to do was, I was programmed. All I do is work. I make the money. I pay the bills, everyone else is fine. But after that happened, I was like, I've missed so much of his life. That's not worth it. You know what I'm saying?
And exactly. And that's the thing, I feel like that's my wife in the background.
Yeah.
Hi, baby, you're on you're on. But it's like, it's one of those things where, it is, like I said, with Rich, some people, I have really close friends of mine and that they, again, their idea of being successful is money. And to me, it's, and I understand that, like I said, you, I did that, man. When I was working in nightclubs, a lot of times I'd wake up at 11 a.m. and I didn't get home till 6:37 in the morning and then do it over. I was running on freaking Adderall, not cocaine. Okay. But no, running on Adderall, running on pills, you know what I mean? Caffeine pills, 5-hour energies all day long. And I look back at some photos of me when I'm like 32 and I look older than I did now at 45 because I was just so run down. And I'm like,
going through it.
And guess what? then you look back and I'm like, where's all that money that I made
Exactly.
back then? Where is it?
Exactly.
Where is it right now? It's like
Exactly.
you said, but you can't. I can make money eventually.
Yeah.
I can't. But you can't get back the graduation.
Yeah,
the
you can't get back
birthdays,
the time. You can't get back to those moments,
time.
and those are the moments that I always try to preach as much as I can to people. It's like, look, it's about enjoying what's happening and not always working towards the future. You know what I'm saying? We all have goals, we all have plans, we all have things. But the thing is if you look too far into the future, you're missing the past. And when you miss
Yeah.
that past, that guess what? That past is now in the past, and you'll never get it back.
Again,
And
like
yeah.
I'll say another Bible. The Bible said, "Give us this day our daily bread." Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will have its own set of problems, and you can't change. I can't change anything that happened 3 seconds ago.
Yep.
Yet alone 5 years ago. So keep like you said, keep moving forward. And I think obviously, you're a good guy, man. You know what I'm saying? You got a good heart, and that's because you don't say the things you say without that. And I can come off brash a lot of times and fun and cockbaggy, but at the end of the day, I love my friends. I love my family. I want to see people happy.
Exactly.
I can't fathom wanting to see even enemies, man. I actually
Yeah.
don't want my enemies to be unsuccessful, because hurt people.
Yeah.
Happy people don't hurt people.
Yeah, exactly.
And if the world's happy, the world's not going to be hurting people.
And if everyone's successful in achieving their dreams and their goals, guess what? World peace would happen. You know what I'm saying?
100%. But the system, to me, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But the system is set up. You use the word programmed, and I agree, man. We're programmed. You're programmed to think. I thought at 36, if I didn't have the house with the picket fence and the this and the that, I felt like a fucking loser.
Exactly.
And it's funny, dude. I'm gonna tell you a real thing. I remember, because I left Singapore for a girl, moved to New York, and I was trying to do the grind.
Yeah.
And my friends were like, "Wait a second, Jason, you were just living in Thailand?" Or I was like, "In Singapore," but you were going to Thailand and Bali, and like, wait, and you gave that up because what? And then I thought, like, what the fuck? Yeah, I was so like worried about thinking what someone else's definition of success was.
Yep.
I didn't stop and smell the damn roses, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm single. I all my other friends who got married when they were young all are divorced several times over, multiple kids, multiple.
Yeah.
I've been married one time. I wanted to be married one time, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Yeah, I'm here, going to Thai. And so I end up moving back to Singapore, where I met my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And because when I tell people I met my wife in Singapore, they're like, oh, she's Asian. I'm like, she's actually from Michigan. But it's really hard to meet women in Vegas. So I had to move to Singapore to meet a fucking white girl from Michigan. But yeah, man, it's so crazy to me. And I think like you, the vibe I get off you, and the reason you're telling people was because, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not trying to be a psychoanalyze you, but it seems like you're like, dude, I made some mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And same with me. And you're a man, you're old enough to be like, I want to pass this wisdom on to younger people to help them, and I feel the same way, man. I feel the same way.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like I've been through the meat grinder of life, went through, like I said, I've gone through 2 divorces. Yeah. I have 4 kids, 3 kids with my first ex-wife, 1 kid with my second ex-wife. And I'm married now to a beautiful woman who literally will fucking deal with all my bullshit.
It's awesome.
And the thing is too, is like, I've gone through all these things. And because I've gone through all these things, I have accumulated so much knowledge of situations. Because like growing up, I've always been close to like the older people in my community and the older people within my circles, and they're like, hey, here's a bit of information. I see you going through something, try this. Or like, hey, guess what, if this ever happens, say this, do this. And so I always remembered, and I've always listened. I've always had an open ear and willing to accept people's advice. And because of that, I just, like I said, and especially going through things, I'm like, why not give this knowledge out? You know what I'm saying? I try to teach my kids the same things as they're growing up. And I'm also, 2 part of this podcast is about passing on this knowledge to teach people that, guess what? There's always a way and ability to fix your situation.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure that you see it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. I think, like I said, I can tell, you're a good guy. And hey, how different would your life be if you had someone with your level of, experience, your mentorship over you. I know for me, like my parents were amazing for this simple fact. Like my mom's alive, my dad's been passed away since '04. But my parents were almost, they were amazing at the time they're amazing because they allowed me to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
But it was hindered me because you're not, I don't think I grew up until I was 40 and I'm still learning. But a 20-year-old, 18-year-old, 17-year-old guy you're not smart enough, man.
No,
And
not at all.
And you know what I mean? And there's a thing where when you're looking back at it, you can say it, but you don't understand, you don't know the value of experience, and I feel like in this day and age, it's even worse because I grew up with respecting your elders. If I saw a guy with a little bit of gray in his beard, I'm like, I'm listening to you because I think you just done more than me.
Exactly.
I'm going to listen. Where, I meet guys that are like 25, 26 now, and they're
Mr.
like,
Know-it-all.
Exactly. And I'm like,
don't your world shut off to them because I got the internet in my hands. I can figure anything out.
I get it. And
that's it. Trust me.
I'm just glad that I'm happy I'm not like that. Let's just say that,
real.
And and I just have a natural respect for time in. You got more time in than me. That's it, and and I would always say this analogy because, when I was in Singapore, I was the oldest cast member. I was the oldest one. And, I'd always have these like 25, 24, 22-year-old like hot shots, think they're the next big thing or come in. And what's funny, man? And 10 years there, I kept being the best one. And I was like, dude, I'm the best, man. I'm the best. And they're like, you think you're the best? And I go, I don't think I'm the best. The way they're paying me, my bonuses, and the fact that I'm the lead in all the things, they're telling me I'm the best. And I said, but let me ask you a question. I asked like one of these younger guys, and I'm like, who's a better performer, you at 25 or you at 18? And they're like, oh, well, the 25-year-old version's way better. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm 40. So imagine I'm double better than you. So fuck you. I'm the best. And they really kind of couldn't argue with me. And, and I'm saying it in jest.
But it's the truth though.
But there's a lot of truth in that, man. There's a lot of truth in it. And so, like I said, it's always nice to talk to, someone like you, because again, you messaged me and I knew really nothing about, I just looked through your shit, your podcast. And like I said, I said, texting you, I was like, wait, you didn't even tell me I was like, I can't even find your name. And I'm like, your first name. And, so hey, there's your dogs.
Oh, but, I got a new puppy.
Awesome. I got a new cat. We actually just adopted a little 8-year-old girl kitty. Nice. And she's wonderful. But like I said, I never know what to expect, and it's always nice being pleasantly surprised by finding other like-minded dudes that are out there thinking the same thing, and it gives you, whether it's we're all fucking too crazy together or maybe we're onto something here, man.
Exactly, which is the truth. We are onto something because that's
our truth.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And like I said, that's just one of the things too, is like in this podcasting community that I'm in, it just being able to network and branch out and find like-minded people. It's just, what I'm saying, it really, like, because like I said, a lot of times, a lot of people's messages are never heard, but these podcasts that are out here, guess what? They're heard. And after they're heard, it starts hitting, you know what I'm saying? And next thing you know,
and you said something interesting. I'm going to go back to, you told me, you said earlier about getting in the car and driving, and you just got to go forward, and it's interesting because every time I do a podcast, I always, as a guest, I always get off the podcast and with the person who hosted it is like, bro, Jason, you need to do your own fucking show. You need to have your own fucking podcast. You're an awesome talker. You're fun. You did this, that. And I'll tell you, man, I get like a massive, and I've been a performer my whole life, so it's not stage fright. But when it's my brand, I get like massive paralysis from overanalysis. And like the lighting's never going to be good enough for my, and I need to do what you said. I need to just drive, get in the car and start driving.
Robbie uses Anchor. Anchor's free. All you do is you go on your computer.
I have the apps. I have them all, dude. I have them all. I have the mic, I have the apps, I have the headset, I have the in-ears. I got everything except the and I think I even have I have the ability. It's just Yeah, man. But
Yeah.
that's the hardest part. That first step's the hardest part.
Oh, it is the hardest part. You know, hey, is you produce this first episode, call me on. I'll come on with you, and we'll just shoot the shit, or
That'd be
you know,
cool.
break it down, or whatever it is you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Because what it is if you're just looking for that jumping point, well, guess what? Like I said, I'll be right there to help you jump. I'll be
I
right next to you
appreciate
to
that,
dive
man.
straight forward into this, because you
Yeah,
know that's how this works. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's awesome.
I got bullied into doing this because I used to do personal training, and I would train people. And one of my good buddies, you know, he wanted to start training when we started training, and he does a podcast called It Be Like That. And it's just a guy's podcast where they, you know, talk about football, baseball, you know, just everyday man things.
Sure.
And he kept telling me, he's like, you need to do this. You'll be really good at it. You'll be really good at it. Just the way you talk, the way you act, the way you
Same,
are.
man. I hear that
Yeah,
shit.
exactly. And so he finally is like, all right, download this app. All right, now that I downloaded this app, now you need to start recording. You need to start. And so eventually he after like 3 months of hounding me, I finally like, fuck it, I made one episode. After I made that one episode, I was hooked. I was like, this is fun.
Well, it's funny, man, because like I said, I've done so much. I literally was a guest on with Robbie the other day on Wednesday. I did a podcast yesterday, 6:30 last night. A guy named Eddie Green. He has a podcast called Eddie Green 101. He had another guy on there, an old friend of mine that I used to be a stunt guy with in the Terminator show, and he wanted to bring me on. So I ended up doing that. I was supposed to be a jump in for like 10 minutes. We ended up talking for fucking 2 hours.
It goes like
and
that.
then, like I said, damn Zack Snyder, I watched him, and now here I am at like 7 a.m, you know, with you. But you know, and I love a good conversation.
Oh yeah.
You know, me and my buddy, a friend on my arm wrestling team, his name's Mason. He's a young guy, and we drove out to, as arm wrestlers, it's the worst. We drive to other people's practices, you know, and so we drove out to from Vegas to a little military base called Sunny Palms, California. It's a Marine base, and we drove like 4 hours literally. To go arm wrestle with him, and I to train with another team. And then we came back, and but dude, it was just, those 4 hours flew by, man, because him and I were just, you know, sipping coffee and just talking, man. And rabbit hole. We started with arm wrestling, obviously, and then on the drive home, we're talking about, you know, creation and what's this, and you know, and I love it, man. I think it's so much fun. Again, because I came on here, I knew you do like fitness and, you know, body, and motivation. So I'm like, okay, those are two things that are, you know, real big passions of mine, and part, you know, things I hold near and dear to my heart.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, and you know, it'll be easy. But again, I never know what you end up going to talk about, you know?
Oh yeah. Well, it's even too, like me and my wife, we do a podcast too together. It's called I Married a Bigfoot. And like I said, I'm big into Bigfoot, aliens, paranormal, you know, UFOs, all that crazy stuff. I've seen
me too,
things, been through things. And
do you have Tubi?
I don't have Tubi, but I have all the other apps. Is there any good documentaries on there?
Oh, dude. Okay, dude. If you're a big dude. Okay, so again, like you said, we're similar in the fact that we have beards and watch Bigfoot. So dude, I get high, man, and you know, once you, just like on YouTube, once you watch a few things, they have your recommended things.
Exactly,
dude. If I took a screenshot of my recommended came up. I told my wife, I was like, oh my god, I was like gonna jerk off. I was like, dude, I'm so horny, dude. My recommended thing was literally like all fucking, like, there's like 65 Bigfoot things. I'm like, I love it. It's hilarious to me. I again, part of me like wants it to be people that you actually really believe in that. I'm like, I don't know. It's just, but the journey's fun. I know for a fact when these fucking dudes are like, yeah, man, Sasquatch. There been 6 sightings. I heard some things, and they're knocking and go, woo, boo. And I'm like, I know for a fact. I'm looking at things. They're going to take up 2 hours of my time, and I'm not going to see Bigfoot.
Exactly.
I'm going to see,
not at all. But
I'm going to see some redneck dudes in green light, looking at fucking dirt. And
exactly,
you got me. I love it. I love it
every time. Every
fucking time. And you get me every single time. Every single time.
I bought YouTube Premium, and that's exactly what I watch. Like a lot of the travel channels and stuff like that, there's a lot of shows that are no longer out there for free. But because I pay for the premium for YouTube, I get the Alaskan Triangle. Monster Quest, Chasing Bigfoot. There's so many documentaries that are out there that once you get that, for me, once I got that premium, all of a sudden they gravitated toward me. So every night before I go to sleep, I'm watching Bigfoot or I'm watching alien abduction videos, and my wife's like, "Do we have to watch this before I go to bed?"
That's
I'm like,
my
no,
wife
it's mandatory.
too. My wife's like, great, now I got to watch cartoons.
Exactly.
Always, and I'm like, dude, it's so funny because, dude, get on Tubi, it's free.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna
and
have to check it out.
Search one Bigfoot thing, and dude, just text me back, and I'll be like, you're welcome. You're welcome, dude. There's so many like Bigfoot to this. There's like Bigfoot to that. Bigfoot's an alien. Bigfoot versus aliens. It's like, dude, I fucking love it, dude. And I like I said, I kind of hope it's real, I hope
like I said, I had my own experience. I didn't see anything, but I did hear something, and then I saw some evidence after, and so it was pretty fucking brutal. And I was like, all right, I'm fucking believe. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I want to believe it. I just know, I just seen, all my years with doing jujitsu and going to, gyms. I've seen dudes that, in the shower, by accident when you walk by, and I'm like, fuck, that's like half Sasquatch. I haven't seen Yeti, but I'm like, I think he's motherfuck Bigfoot, and that's who he is,
Hey, let me tell you right now, if I didn't trim my body hair down.
Well, you look a lot like my buddy Brandon Allen, and because like I said, he's like this big burly, like he's like you with more fucking like the tats, the big, but his beard's longer, his hair's longer. He looks like if Christ had sex with Bigfoot, the offspring is Brandon Allen. So shout out to you, Brandon.
There he is, Brandon.
But look him up. He's a
look him up.
He's a funny guy. Yeah, he's got a big following.
If I can find him, I'm gonna tag him in it.
No, dude, yeah. But he's a really good guy, and I'm actually going to his house tomorrow. We're going to have arm wrestling practice. Again, he was a full-time power lifter.
Yeah,
and now he is switched to he's still training, he's still powerlifting, but his goal is arm wrestling now. So we're trying to do a lot because the community's small. I have a lot of friends too. Not to be like name dropping, but anyway, my friends are trying to do a super match, which is a best of 5 with Larry Wheels and Brandon Allen.
Nice.
So
nice. How now let me ask you this question here, which I should have asked way earlier in this podcast, but the transition from powerlifting to arm wrestling, how smooth is that transition for them?
It's a matter of it's the hinge. They have all the fucking power here, all the power in their, it depends. When I find again, the key to the power lifters or bodybuilders that have success in arm wrestling are the people that rely on their hands. Okay. The guys that use straps and belts and everything, wrist straps to hold on to things like deadlift. They are dog shit. Okay. The guys that do everything with no raw are it's pretty
a lot more solid of a hinge then.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like with Brandon and I, like the first when Herman and I, he was just like, "What the fuck is this?" Because we get on the table and and now it's like he's been at it about a year and a half, and he's strong as fuck now. in order for me to have a match with him, I gotta hit him because speed, just like in any combat sport, speed's a big deal, and if I can hit, I'm real fast. Even at 44, I'm still really, really fast, and from all my years of martial arts and stuff, I'm fast, and I can hit him in his hand, and that's where I had. But if like he slows me down, and we call it catching. It's a bad day for me because he's, dude, the motherfucker like benches 600 pounds, squats 1,000, deadlifts 8,000, whatever. So
that's it.
But he's a wonderful, wonderful human being, and him and his wife have been nothing but wonderful to me and my wife.
That's good. It's always good.
But the transition for powerlifting is. But if you ask me, what is the one, what sport translates into arm wrestling the most? Yeah. And it's a loaded question because it's not a sport, but anyone who's a mechanic, mechanic, welders, roofers, all those guys, because they're doing hundreds of reps with these little muscles in their fingers and hands, and their hand. When you shake a guy's hand who's been doing,
can tell.
You know what I mean? Like you can see a guy who looks amazing naked. You know what I mean? No homo. Or shout out to my homo friends. But you know what I mean? The guy's like, dude, this motherfucker's a specimen. And you shake his hand, and you're like,
he never worked a day in his life.
I could whoop your ass, dude.
You know what I mean?
It's all cosmetic. And then you see a dude that's just kind of just like, it looks like a normal dude. You shake his hand, and you're like, solid. His hands are thick and and you're like, dude, he could squeeze my fucking head off,
Exactly.
And And I always admired that, you know what I mean? The guy, you shook their hand, and I feel like I'm that guy now. You know, people shake my hand, and the first thing they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? And you know, it sucks. I can't intimately touch my wife without hurting her. It's like she's always like, Jason, your hands are way too strong. So yeah, but we're trying to figure that out. But yeah, so it's like those guys are the guys that make the transition.
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's good.
The best. Yeah,
that's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I think we did about an hour, man.
Easy.
So, easy.
This, like I said, that's why me and Robbie, dude, thank God we talk about the flat earth.
You know,
6, like SpongeBob, 6 hours later.
Exactly. Now, hey, trust me, I can go off the deep end with the shit that I think about all that stuff.
Hey, have me back on, man, and we'll do an all Bigfoot fucking, an all Bigfoot aliens thing.
We are definitely gonna do that because, like I said, let's set it up so maybe we'll come back in maybe the end of the month.
Oh, hey,
and give us an opportunity to rewatch, you know, put in some time so we can fucking peel the lid off of this.
Yeah, no, for real. I like, dude, have me back on. I will talk about no one's ever invited me to an all Bigfoot chat.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna be doing that.
I fucking love it, man. I love it. Well, dude, like I said, man, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure talking to you as like sharing your just some you know your thoughts and stuff to me. It's inspiring. I love it, man. I love hearing I just love knowing there's other and
like-minded people, man.
No, I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna say there's other good dudes out there, man. Thanks for being a good dude.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Is there anything you like to throw out there into the internet before we shut this down?
Yeah. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my name's Jason Latona, and Jason Latona is my YouTube page. I just started a YouTube channel. I actually put up a funny little video. It's got about 1,700 hits on it already.
All right, I watched it yesterday.
Oh, did you really? Yeah, the arm wrestling one.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I'm kind of focusing right now just to build a base with the arm wrestling. But eventually, I want to branch. Who knows? I'll arm wrestle. Maybe I'll go into the woods and find Bigfoot. You know, but that's what I based when I go and look for him with the cameras at night. That's what I based it after, the finding Bigfoot thing.
That's it.
That was the motivation. So I knew to get that reference.
Well,
but dude, thank you so much.
That's all good. I'll put all your links, all the stuff in the information in the notes for those that are listening. You can easily find them right there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna stop this.
Never die. Always living. Always living. Always living. Always living. Always living.